Check 1, 2, test, test, test. I can see the audio. Okay. This is in response video to this video.
But I'll tell you what the answer isn't. The answer isn't standing up with hair that looks like cotton candy made of piss and saying, we got to keep these people out of here. We got to keep these people out of here. I cannot find any way that preaching hate helps that situation.
And it's back to Trump. Okay, what is this, an anti-Trump ad? Is that what Big Think does now? It just does political campaign ads?
And this video is actually pretty good. I only have a few little things I thought I might as well add to it, which I did in a comment, but there's billions of comments on this thing, and mine is never going to get a thumb up. And I thought to myself, hey, I could use my time a little bit more constructively. So, here we go. First point is at like about 6:23 or so.
I'm sorry if your family and your community were Muslim shitheads who don't want anything to do with you because they're Islamic and you're not, because their book says on every fucking page that the unbeliever is the worst thing imaginable. I'm sorry if you were born into that. It really, really fucking sucks for you. It really does. I wish nobody ever had to go through that, which is why I oppose religion so strongly.
If your family and your community. Interesting pair of concepts that you've linked there, logic. This is why equality, that nefarious ideal, generally uses terms such as universal brotherhood to show how to cross the boundaries between purely insular property arrangements and diverse ones. Humanists have been arguing that way for years. I mean, we're all related by common ancestry. There's no reason to insist on the cultural overlays which think they know better than genetics. Genetics doesn't think at all. Love the video. Love the target. Keep up the good work. And then, of course, there's a Jesus long video that's like 50 minutes long. It's a big video. And I didn't want to link it on Facebook without having added my own caveat to it, so to speak, in this video. I'm going to hope that this video is shorter than the video that it came from. And there's responses in the video sometimes for Hitchens and there's responses in this video sometimes to Penn Teller and sometimes to Logic. I'll try to keep them separate. I can put clips, I guess. First one, 723.
Christopher Hitchens, my friend, my hero, my mentor, even though he wasn't much older than me, but he's so much smarter, used to say, Penn, if you dislike Christianity, you must dislike Islam much more.
Exhuming Hitchens to establish credit that he ain't got, that's a paddling. Hitchens wasn't perfect either, but he was rather insistent on his humanism despite the Republicans. Then Logic responds, 739.
A lot of ex-Christian stories end perfectly fine. They don't end up with being disowned, being threatened, being killed, being beat. It's pretty goddamn rare. And then listen to the ex-Muslim stories.
Is my response. Hey, Logic, why do you think the Christian... Yeah, boom. Hey, Logic, do you think that if Christians did beat, excommunicate, dare I add, disown, which is a rather odious, or threaten to kill apostates and atheists, there'd be more acts of righteous violence to get into heaven? Or would the suicide rate change? If there's a person I wish that was still alive to consult on that matter, it would be Alan Turing. Then the next thing that I respond to is at 10:02.
Or to take it away from the whole genocidal aspect, why would you not hate some asshole parent who decided to disown their child just because their child's sincere beliefs didn't match theirs?
I've thought long and hard about that one, Logic. Here's the best reason I can fathom. If it's a hateful reaction to hate which is verbal or ideological, it might at least be countered. If you try to counter it, adding more hateful reaction will tend to increase instability. And the result is that humans still consider trial by combat as righteous some of the time, but not all of the time. So by not hating, if there's no way to reason or to show why a person you judge is hateful out of their hate, you're best off walking away from them and leaving them to die miserable and alone. Excommunication in fact, but only if you can see this as the whole human family. Most people simply ignore and don't even consider they lost a member of their family to it. You're also in, dare I say, a privileged position since you can address your reaction safely through another medium, like an old-time letter would have been in some cases, I think. You don't add as much to the hate by showing how you think it's stupid, ludicrous, unreasonable, unconscionable, counterproductive, or whatever. There are other humans who will probably have a hateful reaction to it, but it's not likely they're going to put up a counter video to it, is it? And then P.S. But what about acting in defense of the defenseless type of hate? That also doesn't require a hateful response. In fact, Logic says this himself. If you ask me, I would rather respond to it, though, than to walk away. I do get where you're coming from with the point, and why love everyone in Christian hands is a bad excuse for positivity above all. 1101.
Unfortunately, a large number of them are Muslim. There are plenty of Muslims who aren't going to be your enemy.
Unfortunately, a large number of them are Muslim. Hey, Logic. I know you've put up video after video to exemplify this is so, but do you ever notice how many of the teachers of Islam want to include a place for debate among the Muslims to determine what is or is not true? It isn't always dependent on the imam or the interpretation of the Quran, although the current system, not unlike the Christian church, is split, roughly speaking, between the Muslims who have their own copy of the Quran and those who listen to what someone else insists the Quran says. This is a strategic win for the good guys, by the way, because it effectively puts this huge value, absolute truth, at odds with itself. It also means many Muslims are killing many other Muslims, and then I put in an edit, you're right, Logic, and many other people of many other faiths or lack thereof, besides, and the conflict will spread if there's to be a unification. Before that happens, there's huge numbers of Muslims who are not averse to logic, reason, demonstration, and justness. As a result, less hate would be a good thing. If you don't, it isn't only a good thing for ourselves, psychologically speaking, and I'm saying this in a certain way because this is the way that Logic has presented the argument. It's a psychological good thing to humans to express hate when they feel it.
Why would you not hate them? You should hate those people. Hate is a tool of self-preservation. If you don't have it, you're not going to be able to repel the people who aren't going to help to maintain and improve your society. You should hate people who are disowning their kids over petty bullshit like that, or who are threatening them, or whatever they're doing. You should hate people who hate you for what you are.
Because we are wired to hate. I'm going to add to this. It isn't only a good thing for ourselves psychologically speaking. Consider that your hateful reaction to hate is in itself a part of your human nature, which is going to act to amplify what it sees in response. And on automatic, not unlike the way we sometimes project inner faults or inner failings in place of a perceived fault of the enemy. The reaction we feel though is not outside of our control or reason. You're so goddamn clever. Next one is 1633.
It's the wrong word. It's just the wrong word. We have to be more careful. Islamophobia is not racism. Saying anything against Muslims is.
It's just the wrong word. That's Penn talking. And that's just being misused to get unreasonable agreement. You call me a grammar Nazi if you want. 1957.
You're not Christianity-ophobic. You know, you're just saying, no, I have a different idea. That's what America is.
You're not Christianophobic or something like that. Depends, Penn. Depends, Penn. I frankly would not walk down a street of Irish pubs on St. Paddy's Day yelling out how atheism was better than popery for a lark. 3205.
But instead you thought with your heart instead of with your head. And now you've proposed a simple solution that doesn't address any of the problems, and then you've acknowledged that it doesn't solve any of the problems.
But instead you thought with your heart instead of your head. That's a good one. This is a good one. This is in response to logic. Not to be terribly boring about this, but why do you think logic, the Egyptians had thought up a scheme whereby their immediate concern in the afterlife was about how the heart would be weighed upon a scale? Yes, we know that they were mistaken about where the seat of the intellect is, but the way that the intellect in turn... 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 But the way that the intellect in turn influences the body hasn't changed much in all that span of time. Consequently, in discussing ideas about right or wrong, helpful or hateful, the emotional reactions are easier to use and all too often to fake a "that is correct" logical conclusion, which is not logical at all. The mind is reflective. What it takes in, like a photo multiplier, it amplifies by reflection. What it puts out can be measured by reason, though, and demonstrated logically. 3455.
Born in, doesn't matter. How do we do that? How do we help? How do we help people that have a religion that's wrong, but that aren't going to kill us, to be able to be part of it?
How do we help people, and then checking notes, that have religion that's wrong? Penn's not practicing his sleight of eyes like he used to. Logic, this is why you're probably smarter than most by a long shot. And then 3542. This is a long tirade that I put in one little comment. This is all under like a comment thread too, so I started off with the one I read at the top, and now I'm getting into the nitty-gritty at the bottom. This is the last one. This is right at the end of the video because, well, there's another 15 minutes. 3542.
We got to get back to the idea of an America that was a melting pot.
How are you going to do that? They're going to gravitate towards each other. They're going to create their own communities, Muslim communities. You know, not even Muslims, just generally. Do you think it's an accident that people tend to congregate with other people like them? The more you can prevent Muslims from forming their own communities of just Muslims, the better they're going to integrate, because then they're forced to be part of greater society.
Melting pot America. So it starts with a section from Penn, and then logic will follow up. Your criticism, logic, is utterly correct. Let's examine the reasons why, too, please. A. Language is a barrier for anyone who has not been trained in English as a second language, or French, or it would appear, or German, or any other number of languages. And B. Of those who immigrate, it's not likely that 100% of them will learn English, except as a pidgin variety, which is a consequence of human genetics, and would be the same if any American English speaker ended up having to live in some other culture with another language. They would never get any farther ahead than pidgin most of the time. C. The young people have it the best of all, because they will learn the language most quickly through immersion in the culture, which is almost guaranteed. They are the best candidates for communication between the surrounding melting pot and the bits that won't melt in, too. They're the ones who some insular groups protect the most fiercely, because different cultures view their cultural identity as being dependent upon renewal by the young, which is why marrying outside of the group is taboo. D. Because, ladies, gentlemen, it's about property. Penn Jillette is arguing this way because his economic ideals depend upon it. That is why he wanted Chris Hitchens as a pinch hitter. That is why he's content to argue for logical bullshit points in other places that are incredibly unfair, in fact. And I don't have to say any more to that video. Peace. Piece of the pie. I'm doing a lot of discussions lately online too, so this has been one of many videos where I've done a chain of comments, one after the other, sometimes pushing political agendas, sometimes not. But that was a really cool video. And I can't put it on Facebook directly like that without putting my own 2 cents in with it too. I gotta argue from the atheist point of view on this one. They are asking for atheist points of view.
Donald Trump is giving speeches against people of Pakistani ancestry? When? Quote, please. This. How do you expect people to swallow this? As Christopher Hitchens would say, and you mention him in a minute, so I might as well use his quote, he's so full of shit if you gave him an enema, you could bury him in a matchbox.
And are certain phobias true or not true? I don't know. I know about some. Enough is enough.